Sekeres and Price for Monday, February the 3rd, 2026, a presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the historic Wall Center. It's Blake Price right here. It's Jeff Patterson over there, in for the vacationing Matt Sekeres. And we've got the 4-time Juno Award winner, Mike Rogerson, hitting switches and conducting things. So glad to have you with us. Groundhog Day was yesterday. Groundhog Day may be a lot of days going forward for Canucks fans. We covered that, and we certainly feel that a little bit after watching last night. The good news is we've got Olympic hockey news to talk about later today. That will be the salvation for many a Canucks fan, I think, Jeff.
Yeah, that was bad last night. That was San Jose bad. They thought they had turned the page from the loss to the Sharks last week. Mammoth wearing different uniforms, but boy, it looked an awful lot. Defensively, it looked an awful lot like the game against San Jose.
And Vejmelka? What are we going with?
Vejmelka.
Mm-hmm. He is absolute poison for the Vancouver Canucks. 5-0 now in his career.
Yeah, which doesn't make a ton of sense. No. But there's a lot of goalies that are racking up wins against the Vancouver Canucks this season, so he's got some company there. But yeah, you got to test the guy too, and they didn't do a terrific job of that.
I honestly thought two of their best shifts of the season might have been in last night's game. They twice kept the Mammoth pinned in their zone for about 2.5 minutes, but even in those 2.5 minutes, we saw them get tired. And there wasn't many grade A opportunities. I mean, don't tell anybody I said this, folks, but I don't think they're very good. Our Yellow Dog Daily Poll question brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Yellow Dog Spirits, Neighborhood Brewing, and Foolish Wine. After a 2-point effort in that mess from Teddy Blueger, including his 5th goal in 9 games, not to mention a 12-penalty-minute pointless night for Evander Kane, it had me thinking, which UFA to be fetches more for the Canucks in a trade here at the deadline? Teddy Blueger or Evander Kane? Voting is at Sekeres and Price social channels, both on Twitter and on YouTube. Kane cap hit is almost 5.13. Blueger is at 1.8. Jeff, retention's theoretically possible on both because they have the slots. You're allowed 3. They've only got 1 being used on McKayev. It would have been fun if you could only had the 1 to choose from. You'd really have the gun to the head there. But you tell me, what are you thinking, Blueger v. Kane?
Well, first of all, I don't defend Evander Kane very often, but relative to what I saw from most of his teammates last night, he was involved. He was active. He hit a crossbar at one point.
And a good hit on the inboards.
Had the hit on Dursey that I think got the attention of the Mammoth. He had the face-off play with Hayton. Well, he probably should have got a penalty. He didn't, but the Hayton comes up with the cross-check, and he got a penalty. And then Liam O'Brien was like, enough of this. We're going to try and settle things down. I don't know why the linesman stepped in there. Or just let them go.
Liam O'Brien is the Irish guy in Braveheart. He almost looks like him, too, kind of a little off kilter. You're like, not sure what this guy's capable of.
But I thought Evander Kane was involved, and that hasn't happened nearly enough this season. All of that said, though, Teddy Blueger is younger. He's cheaper. He plays a premium position. He's as low-maintenance a guy as you are going to find in the National Hockey League. Face-off, penalty-killing utility. He's now chipping in with offense. Got playoff experience. He's got a cup ring to show for it.
Yeah.
Maybe Vegas would like him back.
They could afford him because, again, if you retain half on Blueger, you're talking about $900K.
I'm starting to think that Teddy Blueger could very well be a commodity that could help teams. Not just, depth, the way that he's playing, and he's playing a little higher in this lineup, but I think a team would acquire him as a 4th-line center. You could do a lot worse, way worse than Teddy Blueger around the National Hockey League at the trade deadline. So, yeah, I mean, keep going, Teddy. Boost that stock and value, and we'll see. I don't expect it's going to happen before this roster freeze, but I do absolutely expect that Teddy Blueger will find a new home by the trade deadline.
He's not a burner, but he's fleet enough of foot. And in my mind's eye, his 2 years with the Canucks have been sort of his high watermark offensively. But I actually look back, the Vegas stint is really the only time he's sort of disappeared a little bit offensively. It was more down to like sort of a third of a point per game. He was 30-point guy. He was like a 28-point guy in Pittsburgh. Heck, he had a 22-point in 43-game season during that pandemic year of 2021. That's a half-point per game guy there.
Yep.
So there's maybe more offense in him than you think at first blush. Yeah, and PK, obviously, a responsible player. He's a centerman. I mean, what starts to sound crazy? Does a third-round pick sound crazy to you? Is it more likely fourth or fifth?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, we're probably overvaluing him in the grand scheme here. He's on a nice run. He has been way better in his return from 3 months off than I expected. I thought it would take him, like
totally.
a lot of guys,
yeah.
And he jumped in. I love the truth-telling after games, too. Like,
we're going to hear that in a second.
And I don't know that he would be required to speak out against an acquiring team.
On a contender, no.
Hopefully things are going smoothly for the team that he joins. But when they're not, he's not afraid to call out teammates, call out coaches, whatever. I admire that in a league where there's too many guys that won't say boo. So, no, I've really enjoyed watching him and having him back around this Vancouver Canuck hockey club, the way that he's going. Again, and we said this about Keeper Sherwood, grand scheme, you'd kind of like those guys to pave the way for this rebuild, but here and now, pending unrestricted free agent, they have to move him and recoup what they can.
All that. The poll question, voting again, YouTube and on Twitter. Brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing. The Shake a Paw Smoked Porter is back from Yellow Dog. I'm starting to like the dark beers. Does that mean I'm getting old? I don't know. It's well-balanced, gives you hints of rich chocolate and coffee flavors with an undeniable, subtle smokiness. Best enjoyed with friends or your canine companions. Find it in Yellow Dog Brewing's Porter Series mix pack. Canucks on the ice as we speak right now. If you're watching us live on YouTube with practice, we'll let you know if there's any news there. But our top story today brought to you by Pacific Blue Cross. 26 games to go, folks. You have 26 more games to endure what we saw last night. 26 to go. The Canucks fall 6-2 in Salt Lake. It wasn't close last night, and it wasn't pretty quickly. It didn't take long. Here's Adam Foote on all that.
Well, we made it hard. I mean, we gave them the first three. So when you do that, you have just off the end of power play, we didn't have our coverage. Then on the face-off play, we lost coverage, and it never should have happened. So when you give a team three, I'm not even sure how well they played. It's what we gave them.
Is he indicting himself at this point here, Jeff? Like, he maintains that he's saying X, Y, and Z, but not getting that out of his team. You can blame the players for a little bit, but at some point, doesn't it just look poorly on you? He's not wrong that they basically did give them three freebies. The first one, Tom Willander's still spinning on Delta Center Ice. Teams moved on to Vegas, and I think that was tough. Yeah. A young guy, but he didn't look great defending the rush there. Philip Chytil completely lost the faceoff, and then he lost his man completely, and now he's gone, and who knows when we'll see him again. And then the third one, Marcus Pettersson completely screening Kevin Lankinen, the power play goal by Sergachev that turns out to be the game winner. A lot of self-inflicted wounds, and when Adam Foote says, I don't know how well Utah played, I think Utah did play well. Like, Schmaltz was going, Keller was dealing last night. I don't want to diminish what Utah did, but we've seen this so many times this season that I don't even think teams need their A game, and sometimes their B game, to beat this sad sack of Vancouver Canucks. That's probably true. It's 7 straight on the road now. It scored 33-11 in the process. They used to be the good road team. Mm-hmm. 1-8 in their last 9 away from home. For me, they played simpler early on in the season on the road. And they sort of played like they were the underdogs and their backs against the wall, and that kind of brought the best out of them. But
that Paterka goal, the fifth one, just a complete fire drill.
Yeah.
Like, it was so inevitable that puck was winding up in the net. It was just a question of when, and eventually puck winds up Turk's got the wide open net to shoot at. He wasn't going to miss from there. But, plays like that just kind of sum up. If you were dropped in here from the moon and said, how's this Canucks season going? I would show you that 5th Utah goal and say, it's been a season of that.
It's 2 goals in 5 straight games off the sticks of the Vancouver Canucks. If they were being coached by a Sutter, that would maybe put them in contention in some of those games. Was it Daryl or Brent that said 2-1?
No, that was Daryl.
Daryl, yeah.
But in those 5 games, they beat Anaheim 2-0, and they got a point off the Leafs. But that's 3 of a possible 10 points. It's 300 hockey, and that ain't getting you where you want to go. So you got to score some goals, and we're right back to this point in time where a ton of guys have gone MIA, starting with Elias Pettersson, who has gone 10 games without a goal and has 9 shots in those 10 games. Remember? Yeah. That Eastern road trip, he had a stretch. He scored 4 goals in 6 games, and he was shooting the puck a bunch. And we were like, all right, that's progress. That looks a little more like a guy that's feeling it and has some confidence. He has 9 shots in his last 10 games, and 4 of them came against the Islanders.
And yet we keep on hearing these reports from you and others that are at practices when they're at home about him practicing the shot.
Working on one-timers, after practice, warm-ups, whatever.
He knows that's allowed come game time.
He's talked about, I know that I don't shoot enough. I have to shoot more. And then when push comes to shove, there's nothing doing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think, Jeff, that is between the ears. You have to think that is,
It's 2 years. 2 years to the day since that photo of the 6 Canucks at the All-Star game in Toronto.
Oh, my goodness.
And really, from that point on, he has just been in decline.
We've talked about Teddy Blueger. He, too, sounding a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, I think defensively we just weren't good enough, weren't tight enough. We knew they liked to cross seam plays, and then we gave up a bunch of chances early in the first period. Lynx made some big saves, and then just kept doing it throughout the second, and they made us pay for it. Going into the game, fresh start, first slate, we got to be sharper on the details. Better reads, better communication, better sticks, all those details that a winning team has that we don't have right now, that we're not playing with consistently enough. That's why the results are the way they are. So I think another chance to get it right, and yeah.
Is frustrating the word right now?
Yeah, frustrating, disappointing. Yeah, along those lines.
Assistant coach Teddy Blueger.
Pretty much.
Does he sound like he wants to trade a little bit?
Man, he's got the checklist of all the things that, as he's winning teams do, that the Canucks are not doing.
Yeah, co-host of Rink Wide Vancouver, Teddy Blueger. He's doing all the heavy lifting here, the analysis. He was second on the team in Corsi for last night or in Corsi percentage at 65%. Sounds like he's doing his job. Scoring chances, 6-2 Canucks. With him out there on the ice.
That line was good with Ogren and Garland.
Yeah.
They counted for both goals, and Garland 2 assists for the first time in forever, so that was good.
I mean, that's one of the upsides here. Garland's off the schneid here a little bit, helps to pick up his stock ahead of the trade deadline. So more on that. Injury to insult those. You mentioned Filipino leaves after 2 periods with no particular incident to really put your finger on there. Which led a lot of people to wonder, is it, here's the coach.
Filipino didn't play in the 3rd period.
Yeah.
What's the status there?
Yeah, he tweaked something, so they just told me he tweaked something. We're going to evaluate it. Should know more tomorrow.
Not a head injury, though?
I hope not.
If we get the news before we're done with you here today, we'll let you know. He's not on the ice for practice, needless to say. He's pointless in his 6-game return. He's a -7 in 4 games. That's pretty tough to do, Jeff, saying nothing of the stat itself. That's just really tough to do.
Yeah, he was a low ice time man.
Yeah.
After 2 periods, when he left the hockey game, he just didn't have it going last night, and he hasn't in his return, and it's understandable to a degree, but it's 6 games, and now he's out again and not at practice, and neither is Connor Garland. Now, Garland didn't take the morning skate yesterday, and I thought had one of his best games in a while, so maybe we're in that sort of maintenance-y mode with 1 game to go. I would expect Garland, hope that Garland's able to play on Wednesday in Vegas. I think the prudent play here, and we'll wait to hear from Adam Foote after practice, but sit Chytil down. And maybe he's not able to play. He may be injured again here, but even if he's an option, just sit him down.
Yeah.
Get him through the Olympic break. Look, Adam Foote got a lot on his plate. Things have gone sideways in the hockey club. He doesn't always help himself, though, and I just thought that was so muddled, and the mixed messaging last night, he's tweaked something, Drance comes back, is it a head injury? I hope not. You're the coach of this hockey club. You understand this player and his long list of injuries with head injuries. Like, bring a little bit of clarity. Rule it out entirely. Let the entire market know, no, this is something different. Or if it's another head injury, then he doesn't make it through 6 games.
What's the downside of saying it's a head injury if it was a head knock? What's...
He tweaked something. If we find out it's a head injury, did he tweak his head then? Is that what the coach basically is on the record now saying in the wake of last night's loss?
Yeah, and I know Chytil's been upset at the coverage of his concussions, and maybe that's the reticence there. And again, there's no definitive word that it is a concussion, but it was a little bit clumsy, a little bit awkward from the head coach. And I hope it's not for Chytil's sake, obviously. I actually didn't mind his first 2 games when he came back. I thought there was some pace there, and I thought he looked okay. It's been rather ungood the last little bit, so... let's hope that we get some clarity on Chytil, and let's hope he just felt something in his elbow. Something completely unrelated.
Yeah, and just a quick thought on the losses. I referenced the San Jose loss last week.
Yeah.
So the Canucks have been schooled in the past week by San Jose and Utah. One's a wild card team. The other isn't even above the playoff bar at the moment. And the Canucks weren't a match for either one of those teams. And I think it's important to just kind of frame it that way, that we're not talking about them matching up against Colorado, Minnesota, Dallas, Vegas, although they'll see Vegas tomorrow. They got 3 left against Vegas. These are teams that are trying to do what the Canucks are, or they're doing what the Canucks are trying to do. Utah didn't even have Logan Cooley last night. Like, he'll get back in their lineup. See where Kiefer Sherwood looks like he might debut with the Sharks?
Yeah, it's good real estate.
Celebrini and Smith. Those teams are going to get better here. And I know the Canucks are bottoming out, but like right now, they're no match for wild card middling teams in the Western Conference.
Well, the depressing thing about that is, of course, at the outset of the season, most of our prognostications, the path to get into the playoffs for the Vancouver Canucks was, they'll probably have to be a little bit better than the Sharks and the Mammoth, who on most people's bingo cards were making progress. They were teams flirting with the playoffs. They were going to be plucky this year. Well, they're not plucky. They are dominating the Vancouver Canucks now. That's where it is. Now, here's the silver lining. When losing is good. If you are a tank commander yourself, well, the loss is good news. And it's especially good news because, Jeff, the Blues are bringing their D game on the regular. Even when they mistakenly bring their A game, like last night, it was their 3rd time this season they have held a 4-goal lead. And they now have a losing record in those hockey contests.
That's insane.
1-2 on the year after allowing Steven Stamkos and company to come back against them.
And it was my Bet365 yesterday, and I thought, the Barry Trotz news, I think there's going to be a letdown there for Nashville. At 5-1, the Blues, I'm thinking like, easy money.
I saw that too.
Second day in a row.
I saw it on there, and I was like, Jeff got his pick.
Yeah, second day in a row. There was a 4-goal comeback with the outdoor game and the way Boston collapsed. And then, so the St. Louis Blues are getting good at this. Now, the gap is still 7, so the Canucks have, some breathing room there. But
it's a warning.
Yeah, no, if the Blues are
Blues
trying to
have come to
this,
lose. It's unbelievable. Our top story, the losses, brought to you by Pacific Blue Cross. Your better chance to see a Canucks victory is still on the road, despite the stats we sent you. Win the ultimate Canucks road trip. Get Pacific Blue Cross travel insurance for your chance to see the Canucks on the road, complete with flights, hotel, lower bowl tickets, and more. No purchase necessary. Contest ends February 28th, 2026. You can enter now at pacificbluecross.ca/Canucks. Canucks-ish news for you. Quinn Hughes is doing things, Jeff, which we had to come to terms with, I think, in this market. He was going to go and do things. But this quickly, really? He may yet be the highest scoring defenseman this season in all of the National Hockey League. That's the kind of run he's on offensively, which would give him a chance at the Norris, you'd have to think. 3 assists again last night, which already ties a Wild record. It's pretty unbelievable.
This is hilarious.
He 5 3-assist games already for him, which ties a Wild record. He's only been there for a few weeks.
25 games as a Wild.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Suter held the record and had played 656 games. It's kind of like that when he passed Alex Edler for the highest scoring defenseman in all time in Canuck history and did it in 500 fewer games than Edler.
It's absolutely absurd. Now, again, I was stressing the offensive side of things.
Mm-hmm. 2 ends of the ice.
But his defense was deplorable. Even Wild fans were making note of it. I saw on social.
Brendan Gallagher just whacked him.
Like, that looked like
Brendan Gallagher.
24-year-old Brendan
Right.
Gallagher.
That wasn't Davidoff or Suzuki or Caulfield. That was Brendan Gallagher.
And, the good news if you're a Wild...
Quinn gave it the old...
Oh, yeah. The little cake test. Maybe it was Gallagher's not going to be able to consummate this. Oh, no, he did. Okay.
Where did he go?
Now, rightly so for Quinn. He was mad at himself after all of the above.
Yep.
So I think he's logging his deficiencies there, and I think he can play. Like, I don't think he is that bad defensively. He can move his feet and be better.
No, he looked bad on that play.
Yeah.
But we saw from the one season where everybody here said, oh, this guy, he can't defend. He's all offense.
Yeah.
And then he took
Turned
that
it
to
around.
heart.
Yeah.
And we saw he defends with his feet. He defends with his head. He's a smart player, and he's figured it out. It just didn't look great in that moment.
Now, again, I knew he would do things after he left Vancouver. It wasn't the end of his high-flying days. I did not think this season he would have a chance to win the Norris. But Jeff, despite the defensive deficiencies from last night, he's got a chance to win the Norris this year.
Well, I think absolutely he does. And I also think he's got a legitimate chance to lead the National Hockey League defenseman in scoring.
Yeah. I didn't see that coming.
This is a world in which Cale Makar got off to an incredible start. Colorado's come back to earth a little bit
they
here.
have.
I don't know if they're bored or they're thinking about the Olympics, but they look like they're daydreaming here in the middle of the season. Like, there are 3 guys ahead of Cale Makar in defenseman scoring in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Zach Werenski, Evan Bouchard, Lane Hudson, then Makar. And then it's Hughes. Hughes is 5 points off the league lead, though. And on the pace that he's at, the way that Minnesota scores goals, the way that Kaprizov is going, and he scored the overtime winner last night, not out of the question at all that Quinn Hughes is going to leapfrog those guys and be the highest scoring defenseman when he played, 23 games with the Vancouver Canucks?
The lowest scoring team in the league. So, like, he was handicapped for the first quarter of the season, and he could lead the league.
He already leads all defensemen in assists.
Yeah.
It's his goal total. Like, Bouchard's at 15, Makar's at 15, Werenski's at 19 goals. Quinn's only got 5. But he's got 50 assists, which is 2 better than Lane Hudson. So he's already the highest producing setup guy among all defensemen in the National Hockey League.
But as you said, Kaprizov is on fire right now. The overtime assist, it's on the power play, but that's just the easiest assist. He just, sir, would you mind shooting this?
We'll collect a bunch more of those.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of the halcyon Canuck days of a couple of years back,
yes,
Rick Tocchet might be longing for them too. They are chanting "Fire Tocchet" in Philadelphia these days for his treatment of young players. Matvei Michkov, most notably. He's made veiled references to Philly being tougher on him than Vancouver, and now he might be in trouble with his own team. President Keith Jones went on a local podcast there and shared that Rick Tocchet and the coaching staff need to be reminded about playing young players during the rebuild. No, you don't say. It's important that we keep reminding them to play our young players and involve them in the process of getting better. That's the only way they do get better. Can we forward this to the Vancouver Canucks, maybe? Tocchet on the same podcast, appearing agitated about the questions of Mishkov's ice time, says, quote, "So you think he should get it because he's earned it? I'll be frank. I'm a very frank guy, honestly. I go down swinging. Matvei did not come into camp in shape." End quote.
Where have we heard that before?
Exactly. A lot of echoes here. And he ultimately is apparently under some fire, per 32 Thoughts and Elliot Friedman, that Jones is none too pleased about the comments about Mishkov's condition. Thought that might have stayed in-house. And you wonder if there's going to be a meeting of the minds there between Jones and Tocchet. Is Tocchet back on Turner Sports next year pretty quickly?
His Flyers have 2 wins in their last 13 hockey games.
And remember, they were a good story, quote-unquote, for the first half of the season.
Prior to this stretch, they were 22-12-7. So they had
It's a good start.
10 more wins than outright losses. And there have been some goaltending issues there. I get that. But 2 wins in 13, yeah. Place like Philly, the fans are going to start to grumble. And I think, and I know that he's armed with a 5-year contract and he's got some security there, but I don't know that Rick Tocchet can win a power struggle with Matvei Michkov. Like, Michkov means that much to the Flyers' future that they got to get it right with this guy.
Yeah.
And he understood this when he took the job there. And, I mean, a lot of people from the outside said, it's not going to work. You watch. And here we are in early February, and there are issues. And you just wonder if they can patch up those differences or if this is going to continue to be butting heads. But I don't think the Flyers are going to give up on Matvei Michkov. I also don't think they're going to fire Rick Tocchet in the first year of a lengthy contract. But they were warned. They were warned.
And maybe Tocchet's message ultimately got through. Guess who was out on the ice first at practice today, shooting all by himself in an empty arena? It was Matvei Michkov. So he might have taken a bullet to get his point across, but maybe Matvei Michkov did listen. More Olympic news coming up later. But on the hockey front, we've been keeping an eye on the possible injury replacements for Canada and the 2 Lightning players. Anthony Cirelli, Braden Point, both nicked. No word on Point yet. He's not going to play NHL games before the Olympics. They appear to be just crossing their fingers there. But Anthony Cirelli is done. He's out, and look who's in. It is Sam Bennett. And this is disappointing news. If you're a Jets fan, Mark Scheifele, if you're a Connor Bedard fan from anywhere, or Seth Jarvis for that matter, a returning player, or he wanted to be one, it's Sam Bennett, though, which maybe isn't as crazy as you might think. He's been quieter this season just in terms of media coverage, but he does have 19 goals and 42 points, so he's not having a down year. But it does pale to Scheifele's 67 points.
Yeah, and Bedard's game-breaking ability.
Yeah.
And Sam Bennett answered any questions with his playoff performance last year and the Four Nations tournament. But remember, this is being played under IIHF rules. This isn't the NHL like the Four Nations was. You're not getting 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of a hockey game between Canada and the U.S. Canada already has Tom Wilson. So you just wonder about the need to have, more brawn. But Anthony Cirelli was going to be a role player on this team. He would be a penalty killer. He would be a guy that was out late in hockey games trying to protect leads. And I think they were looking for apples to apples to some degree in terms of, you're not looking to replace a third line or fourth line guy with a guy who's got the most points. You've got enough points on that roster. So, it's hard to argue with the pedigree of Sam Bennett, the success, the recent success. And as you said, he's having a decent season in Florida. Florida's not having a great year, but they've had an incredible run. But Sam Bennett gets the call to replace Anthony Cirelli.
You said they have enough points on the roster. There's only one.
That is true.
It's temporary, too.
Me.
If he can't go, if Braden can't go, that's got to be Bedard or Scheifele, right?
Yes, I would think so.
And which one is it in your mind?
I'm probably hedging to Scheifele.
Yeah. Yeah. It is one thing for these the architects of these rosters to go and put this on Macklin Celebrini. I think that was a big leap. I think they had to swallow hard because it's generally not been the way. Generally don't bring the kids. They let them season for a bit before they bring them to these big international tournaments. But, I think they probably default to Scheifele, which is disappointing because I would have liked to see Bedard in that milieu, but we'll have to wait. Also of note, by the way, the little Canuck angle here, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen out for Team Finland, which may put Kevin Lankinen in stone as the Finnish backup to UC Saros, but maybe not. Eunice Korpisalo isn't on fire exactly, but his .895 save percentage is much better than Lankinen's .877.
Yeah, Lankinen's given up 3 or more in 7 straight starts for the Vancouver Canucks. And you say, okay, terrible defensive environment. But Nikita Tolopilo basically pitched a 2-0 shutout the other night.
Yep.
And then follow that up, giving up 2 against the Leafs, who can score some goals. So it can be done. Lankinen's just in a rut. He has not played particularly well. He has 1 win in his last 10 starts for the Canucks. And I know they don't have many wins, but there's nothing that says the goalie can't bail you out and make some big saves. Again, the Canucks give up way too many grade A's. Last night was terrible. I'm not sure I'm pinning a bunch of goals on Kevin Lankinen, but we talked about the first one where Verlander looked lost. Lankinen's lost his neck completely. He's sliding.
It's like he's not paying attention almost.
Yeah. So I don't know what his role is going to be on Finland. I agree with you. I think UC Saros is the guy. And then maybe it's a coin toss as to, if they want to give Saros a game off. I would have thought Lankinen goes in there as the number 2, but Finns are watching closely. They've been doing their homework here.
Yes.
They know that he isn't on form. So we'll see if Kevin Lankinen gets a start at the Olympics.
I honestly, I'm disappointed in Lankinen last night because he watched a lot of hockey, had a chance to take a breath. Not that he was necessarily fatigued, but he might have been. There's really no excuse for him to not be a little bit better. Again, yes, do the Canucks hemorrhage grade A's? They do. But sometimes you have to put on the cape. Like we've said this years as goalies. You do have to wear the cape sometimes. That's part of the job. And he has misplaced his. I'll also say this, Jeff. What happened to the Finnish goaltending factory?
Yeah, it kind of closed down after Pekka Rinne, or
Yeah. Like they used to punch way above their weight class, and now they've got 2 guys under 900 as the 2 and 3.
Yeah.
A little disappointing.
Tuukka Rask.
Yeah. And then there's this. It does appear that Canucks fans will have to come to grips that Connor McDavid will be haunting them for years to come. It appears. Connor McDavid has an entry in the Players' Tribune. It certainly makes it sound like a promise to be there for the rest of his career, including quotes like this. I don't want to play golf. I don't want to sit by the pool. I don't want to be in the Bahamas. I don't need a break or a fresh start. I just want to be in Edmonton playing hockey. I want to get back there again, whatever it takes. If that sounds like a robot, then I guess I'm a robot. I guess of a bit of a shot there back at people that think he's personality free. But that don't want to play golf, don't want to sit by the pool. I mean, I don't want to miss the playoffs, but it could be I don't want to play in Anaheim or LA or Florida in the future. I'm okay being in the frozen tundra of Edmonton.
I am confused by the whole thing, and I read it start to finish. I don't know where it came from. Why now? I guess
why now
against the head of the. It's titled "Dear Canada," but it was mostly about his time in Edmonton.
But he was a UFA last year. Like that would have been not a UFA, but a pending free agent. He that would have been more timely a year ago than it is now.
As I read it, I kind of had this movie musical score in my head as well. It just the way it read was I don't know. It needed a soundtrack and some
John
musical,
Williams.
A little bit, yeah. It needed something it just trying to tug at the heartstrings here. Maybe it plays well in Edmonton. I think outside of the Oilers market, it was just kind of all right. Hey, a week from now, I'm on Team McDavid. I'm hoping that the guy rises to the occasion like he did at Four Nations. I just didn't need 1,000 words of him sort of waxing on about the opportunity that is ahead of him here and looking around the locker room there before overtime at the Four Nations. And,
And as Canuck fans can say after this Quinn Hughes experience, a lot can change in 2.5 years.
For sure.
For sure. He can trumpet whatever he wants from the highest mountaintops right now. Smash cut to 2 years from now where he's got a few months left on his Oilers contract and things could be in a very different situation. So we'll see. Time for the menu. Brought to you by Greta. It's a fabulous spot to watch the game. We watched Four Nations there last year. So if you're looking to watch international hockey, might be a great place. See what the timing is like, depending on the game, of course. But it's also walking distance to the arena. If you're planning on doing that, stop by before or after the game. Great spot for your corporate retreats. Retreats, that's my kind of retreat. Great street food, and the arcade is so much fun with your friends or your colleagues. 50 West Cordova, gretabar.com. Let the games begin. Cam Robinson from Elite Prospects will be joining us here very shortly. We'll see if he's heard anything further, any more rumors, rumblings about Canucks changing spots, but lots to talk about with regards to the Canucks' current prospects, the treatment of Lekkerimäki, Ogren, the possibility to draft a guy like Gavin McKenna and Ivar Stenberg, still, of course, getting everybody so excited. And McKenna starting to look more and more like a number one pick. These are the stats people wanted to see in the fall. He's putting them up now.
And bringing a little snarl.
Yes. More on that coming up as well. And then, yes, the Olympic hockey tournament is close, but it's still kind of far. Like, it's 9 days away from the opener here for Canada. But the Olympics themselves do begin tomorrow, if you can believe it. So we thought we'd get ahead of things here. Ben Steiner from SI.com will join us to give us the lay of the land in totality, not so much the hockey.
Great overview. Like, I'll admit, I'm so locked into hockey throughout the season that in this Olympic cycle, like, there are some familiar names, but I'm kind of going in blindly here. So it was good to get a sense of who to keep an eye on, what sports we stand a legitimate chance of working our way to the podium in. So, a good little Canadian overview.
I'm like this for every Olympics, whether it be summer or winter, which I should be way more akin to with hockey, and I'm a former skier myself, so it should be my jam. I don't know anything about anything until day one, and then I'm an absolute expert in everything. And I'm not even excited. Like, this is like every single time there's an Olympics, people are asking me, hey, the summer games, winter games coming up. Like, I don't feel it until I've actually seen it, and I can sort of sense the vibes,
And I'm starting to see some dispatches. Reporters are there now and on the ground, and so it's all becoming real. And the women's hockey tournament begins before the men's does, so we'll start to get the look and feel of Olympic hockey here before too long.
All right, let's get into our Bet365 picks of the day. We're going to get into some NFL a little bit later. I have yet to give my Seahawks prognostication, and it's really just a way to find some value here in a game where I do think the Seahawks win. I don't feel comfortable betting the spread here, mostly because there's not a ton of value. I mean, if you take the Patriots plus 4.5, you're still only getting minus 105. So I'm going to look to the running game. As we saw, especially now with Charbonnet gone, Kenneth Walker is everything. And I think they start strong on the ground. The first touchdown of the game to Walker at plus 320. So there's huge value, and they're running early. Walker along the ground. Well, actually, you know what? It doesn't even stipulate that. I get it through the air to Walker as well. This is just a touchdown score. So I get it through the air or on the ground, which I like even more at plus 320.
I'm looking at Edmonton tonight. We were just talking about Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
The Leafs and the Oilers. So, fair bit of star power, sharing the ice there. Bet365's got a super boost on this one. They're going McDavid and Matthew Nyes. I would have thought it would have been McDavid and Matthews, but the super boost here is a point for each of Connor McDavid and Matthew Nyes, and you can get that at plus 200 right now. McDavid on home ice, I mean, that seems like a natural, and then it's up to Matthew Nyes to do his part. Leafs coming off a win in Calgary last night. I know it's back-to-back for them. They beat the Canucks. They're going to go for the sweep here of Western Canada. So if Matthew Nyes can do his part, there's some value there. A single point for McDavid and Nyes, plus 200.
That's your Bet365 Picks of the Day segment, presented by Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary. Bet365. Download the app, get in the game, use the code NATION. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. Before we send it to Cam Robinson, do want to take a moment to mourn the loss of 3 hockey players in southern Alberta. Caden Fine, a 17-year-old from Alabama, so far from home, trying to live out his dream, taken far too early. J.J. Wright and Cameron Casorso, both from Kamloops, BC zone, die in a crash with a large truck on a road just south of Calgary. And needless to say, these sorts of accidents have a particular sting to them in the wake of the Humboldt Broncos tragedy, and the Broncos reached out already to the Southern Alberta Mustangs organization to offer their condolences. They know about these tragedies all too well, but you can bet, and you know the Kamloops market very well, Jeff, that that town is in a lot of hurt, and they'll rally around each other to get through this.
Yeah, both products of the Kamloops minor hockey system. I saw the Kamloops Blazers had a statement out. The Vancouver Canucks put a statement out. The Calgary Flames had a moment of silence prior to their game last night against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, it's just so sad. 3 young lives playing a game that they love to play on their way to practice and don't know the circumstances of the accident, but that doesn't really matter here. 3 lives have been taken, and that's going to be difficult for that team and that league to overcome. And you're right. You hear those sorts of stories, and it takes you right back to the Humboldt bus crash. And I was thinking about that as I was driving in here, because that Humboldt bus crash came the day after the Sedin's final home game. Remember the fairy tale ending in overtime, and the day before their final National Hockey League games in Edmonton. And I remember being in Edmonton on game day. And, it's just the hockey community coming together there for an NHL game. And it was all the talk, and all these NHL guys, most of them had traveled on buses throughout their careers.
It rings familiar for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right?
And so it kind of took me back to that point in time. This wasn't a team crash, but still 3 members of a team. That is a massive hole. So just a terrible story that hits a couple of provinces and a bunch of communities.
Caden Fine, JJ Wright, Cameron Casorso, gone far too soon. Our thoughts are with everybody. Cam Robinson coming up. Harrison Price featuring Jeff Patterson, of course, from the Wall Center here, and we're both golfers. I think you've probably picked up, Jeff, that golf is having a renaissance of sorts here. More and more people of different walks of life are playing golf these days, and the wardrobe is changing along with it. Different people with different lifestyles, and sort of the stuffiness of the game is going away.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Absolutely. No more button down. It's gotten a little more casual without being disrespectful to the game. It's a laid back, almost board sports energy. Yeah. Surfers are even using this as a competitive outlet these days, a way to hang out, of course. And they're helping us enjoy the game a little bit differently. So that shift is why Levelwear has teamed up with Hurley, and this collaboration has produced some spectacular results. We're talking about a collection that pulls inspiration from Hawaiian and coastal prints, relaxed, expressive, rooted in lifestyle, and they take that inspiration, they bring it to life through performance-driven, sustainably made apparel that's built to move and play. It's light, it's wearable, not stiff and rigid. Again, respectful of the game's roots, but not stuck in the tradition. So that collection is live and available on Levelwear's website. Go to levelwear.com. Check out the polos, hoodies, hats, and casuals. And yes, you will probably sick and tired of seeing us in our Levelwear as the golf season comes and goes this year. Have you been out yet? Have you mudded yet?
No.
Neither have I. Close.
Bit of a fair weather.
Yeah, me too. We'll leave the mudding to Matt. We'll get in the mud here of trades and transactions. The one and only Cam Robinson back with us here on Sakaris and Pride from Elite Prospects. How are you, Cam?
Doing well. Got my 2 pieces of merch on once again.
As always.
That's per usual.
Respectful of roots, but laid back and casual. You're just like them. It's getting close. We are 24 hours away from the roster freeze. I almost said deadline. We don't want to confuse people here. Roster freeze. And, on the Canucks front, at the very least here, Cam, it seems like things are almost quieter than they were. Is that a decent read?
Yeah, it is. I think teams are definitely, we're kicking the tires. A lot of teams are not super engaged in making the trade before this freeze. I think there's one team in particular looking to make something happen. That's the Rangers to move out Panarin. But everybody else is kind of like, I think we'll maybe wait and save the money too, because, you got to pay these guys over that break too to not play. I understand kind of the idea of making that move and then bringing them in so they can practice and kind of be around the team and learn the systems a little bit sooner. But I think we're going to see a flurry after when they get back from the Olympics too. But yeah, it does seem like it's pretty quiet on the Canucks front.
Let's ask you the poll question. After differing games last night, who fetches more in a trade, Teddy Blueger or Evander Kane? Obviously very different players, different cap hits, but who ultimately brings in a higher draft pick?
Gosh, hey, I can't hedge and say they're both bringing back 3rd or 4th rounders. Hey, so I'm going to say Blueger. Yeah. I'm going to say Blueger. I'm going to say the center. A reliable center. Those guys are in great demand usually at the deadline, especially as teams miss out on some of the other guys that they look at as more of like two-way players that can like slide in a little bit higher up the lineup. Those guys go quicker for a bigger package, and all of a sudden the value in some of these 3rd, 4th line guys that can play responsible minutes and keep their head above water on the shot share, I think their value will only go up. Evander Kane, though, he does have that playoff breed style to him, right? The heavy style that usually shows up a little bit more in spring. But he does come with some more baggage too. So I'll say that Blueger's probably the easier player to move, and that might help him just maybe an extra round above.
Curious to get your read. The market was up in arms on the weekend. Jonathan Lecker-Mackey sat for most of the 3rd period and overtime in the shootout game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, if Lecker-Mackey himself was upset, his response last night was a complete flat line. Didn't have a shot attempt in the loss in Utah. Didn't play a lot, isn't being put in a great position to succeed. But what do you make of the deployment of a young player on a 32nd place team here that's going nowhere? Is this not the time to play the kids?
You would think it would be. Yes, it would be. Yeah, you want, it's like the chicken and the egg, right? You're like, he needs to shoot more. He needs to get that shot off. And we saw it the other night, he can get it off quickly. He can score at the NHL level, but it's like you need deployment and good players to play with to get him into the spot to get those pucks to release him, because he's not really a driver himself. He's going to be someone who's going to find a little soft area of the ice and get it and go, or like on a quick turnover, turn it and snap it. So he's not going to be that guy who's really going to go in there and you're going to notice him all the time and he's a dog on the puck. So he's going to need that. He's going to need those guys around him. And so you have to put him in positions to succeed. And I feel like a broken record. I've been saying it all year. When you bring him up, put him in a spot that he's going to be able to generate. He's going to get looks. He's going to get shots. He's going to find production. And as soon as, his effort level or his intensity wanes, well, then back to the farm for you. You look at Liam Ugrin, though, last night or the other night, right? Played over 17 minutes, had a bunch on the power play. He's even getting like sniffs on the PK. So it's like his minutes are creeping up. So we're seeing it in real time that they know how to play. The minutes they weren't always high, but they're building. They know how to play a young guy in the proper situations too. And we can talk about him next. But yes, I think Lecker-Mackey, especially with his unique one-shot goal-scoring ability that they lack in this organization, especially in the prospect pipeline, it's like, you got to make it work. You need this kid to be at least a 20-goal scorer for you. And so this is the time. Let him get his feet wet. Let him make some mistakes, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
We always talk about him and his shot, and the shot is undeniable, but he had the worst individual Corsi on the team last night. Like, he got absolutely buried. He's not big, we know that, and he's not exactly fleet of foot. Like, if the shot isn't translating, are there some red flags here about this guy becoming the player that the Canucks hope he can become?
Those flags have always been there. Right, that's why he was picked in the middle of the first round. That's why, myself and at EP, we had him closer to 20 on our boards, because it's like, if he breaks right, if he figures it out, he could be a sniper and he could be someone who can score 30. If he doesn't, there's a decent chance that this guy's going to move around a little bit before he heads back to Sweden. Like there's not much of a fallback game there for him. He doesn't, like you said, he's not a super speedster. He's not Jake Gensel, who can be a little light and not play super physical, but he can still get in there and get pucks and finish at a high rate. So, he needs to know that. He needs to recognize his own limitations and where he needs to impact the game. But also, like I say, is that the organization has to recognize that too. They shouldn't be trying to jam a square peg into a round hole. They know that this is a fairly one-dimensional player. And so if you want that dimension to pop, you better put him in the best spots to make it happen and really bring that along. Because if you don't, it's not going to be much of an asset for you.
If we can somehow get into the lab with Ogren and Lekramaki, we've got one hell of a player, right? Because what one has, the other one lacks. I mean, they both have decent shots, but I would love the skating ability of Ogren onto Lekramaki. Who do you think ultimately? Right now, Lekramaki's got the head start in terms of pedigree and goals, but is there a chance that speed of Ogren will carry the day here and make him more viable?
I mean, as soon as they made that trade, I had one scout text me and say, we thought he was a better player than Lekramaki on draft day, and we think he's going to be a better NHLer than him too. I had Liam Ogren 8 on my board that year. I felt the same way in his draft year. He has that physical profile. He has a much bigger fallback game, right? Like where if his offense doesn't translate as well, you've got yourself a nice heavy third liner, and that's going to be just fine. He's going to be able to impact the game in a lot of different ways. So absolutely, I think, when you say you want to bring them together, basically you just want to give Ogren Lekiramaki's release. And now you're cooking, right? So I really think that for Liam Ogren, though, we need to see him shoot the puck more. I'd like to see him use his body more too, right? Like get in there and get yourself energized by just running a couple defensemen through the end wall in the forecheck. And you can get yourself more ice, more separation, a little bit of softer areas there just by being more physical on a regular basis. And I think that as he matures and he gets more acclimated to the Canucks and to the NHL in general, year 3 of his NHL career, I think we're going to see him have a lot more confidence and he's going to be able to get a lot more room to operate. And then his shot will start, the shot rate will go up, the goals will go up, and he'll be a legitimate top 9 player.
The injuries are going to happen. Filipino leaving last night's game. There is the trade still to come. There's roster spots that are going to open up. Is there anybody down in Abbotsford? And we've seen, of course, Mancini up with the team and struggle to get into the lineup. So perhaps there's a spot for him when trades start to begin, although maybe not on the blue line. But overall, is there anybody down in Abbey that you're dying to see that the Canucks should really consider bringing up? We've talked about Kudryavtsev in the past, and Klimovich has gotten a little bit warm here of late. Does anybody get looks here down the stretch, do you think?
I would give a whole bunch of guys looks, to be quite honest with you. I'd bring them up and give them a few practices and get them into a game. And you always get that first game bump where they come out flying and then, then give them another one and see how they do and then send them back down. But Kudryavtsev, he's over doubled his production rate this year. He's 21. I guess he turns 22 later this week. So he's shooting a lot more than he was last year, especially recently. He still has that really smart defensive game. Why not? Why not give him a chance? He's this unique kind of hybrid player. He's not super big. He's not overly fast, but he just does everything really well. And he has a really good head on his shoulders. So I would get him more reps than any of those other guys. I know Mancini has the physical profile and he has the tools, but I always question about the brain with him too, where I think Kudryavtsev has that. And so, let's massage that. Again, it's like, what are you playing for other than to see what you have? Right now, I understand you have to play some of your bets because you need to offload them. But once that's all taken care of, then bring them all up here and just have them rotating in and out. And it'll suck for Abby, but that's just kind of the par for the course when you're a bottom feeder.
All right, Cam, you got the hat, you got the shirt. Elite prospects. Give me the goods on Gavin McKenna. He took his show outdoors at Penn State the weekend. It sounds like he's heating up. Of course, the Canucks, fingers crossed that they get a little lottery luck and maybe McKenna's their guy. We'll see what happens. But it looks like his game has progressed here since the World Juniors.
Yeah, how do you like that? Hey, the kid's getting used to playing at a certain level after 20, 25 games. Who would have thunk? 7 goals, 14 points over his last 7 games, coming back from the WJC. So yes, he's ramped it up. It was pretty fun too. I tweeted this the other day. He had 4 penalty minutes in 21 games in college hockey, and then he dropped 30 over 2 games over a back-to-back set with a couple misconducts, and both of them standing up for teammates. Right? Like he went after with that high cross check that got him tossed for the second one, defending a teammate. I'm liking the jam. He's got to be careful now because the next misconduct is going to be a suspension. You get a 1-gamer after that. But, he's getting into the middle of the ice. We saw that knockdown play last weekend to the weekend before last, where he knocked it down kind of just in the neutral zone, curled back, and then got to the middle and just ripped it. And so, he's primarily a playmaker, but he definitely has goal scoring ability too. And I'm seeing more speed. I'm seeing more engagement off puck. I'm seeing a little more physicality out of him. It's all really great to see. And you can't help but wonder if he came back from the World Juniors after putting up 2 points a game and suddenly he lost his hold on first. And he's like, what? But, I'm sure he's hearing everything that everybody else is saying too, right? You got to be more engaged. You got to be more energized away from the puck and a little more physical and have better body language. And he's doing that. So kudos to him. I did the draft rankings with the polls, with the scouts, right? And it was almost a dead heat at the top. There was 6 for Stenberg and 4 votes for McKenna at number 1. So this is still very much a 2-horse race. And I think that McKenna is absolutely, he could jump right back into that first and be a slam dunk for first by the end of the year here too.
Hey, a month ago, Tynan Lawrence's name had entered the discussion at the very least, but I saw your tweet last night. It's Beanpot time. Boy, the numbers in the transition to college hockey are not there for this guy.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. I never really thought he was so much in the first overall conversation. I know in the preseason, again, that scout poll, they had him number 2, which was a surprise for me. Stenberg was down at number 7, but I've always thought that he was the top center in this class, especially what he did as a draft -1. I think he did himself a disservice by deciding to stay at Muskegon to start the year. And I'm sure he did that partially out of loyalty, right? They gave him the C. It's like, you're going to be the big fish in this league. You'll be the marquee player rather than going to the Q, who owned his rights, right? I think he didn't really feel like going there. And he didn't feel like he was ready to go to school yet. He's very young for this class, right? Like, he's very, very young. He won't turn 18 until, I believe, August. So now to go in halfway through the season, it's really difficult to do that in general, to make that transition to the NCAA, but to do it as super young, to do it mid-season when everybody's already in top form and the systems are already set, he really did himself a disservice, because it's going to be very difficult for him to put up any points now to even just kind of maintain his draft stock. But I will say that NHL teams are smart enough not to just simply look at the stats, but look at the package. And you can see he has top 6 upside. He still holds on to the puck like a skill player at this level. He's just not quite ready to make the plays at that speed and at that physical level. It's a really tight checking league. So I think he's going to look a lot better at that level next season. And whether he goes number 5 or number 8 or whatever it is, I think a team's going to have themselves a very good prospect down the middle in a class that's really lacking those. There's only a couple that you can look at and be like, that's a top 6 center. And Tynan Lawrence is still one of those guys.
Is there any other helium guys just on the outside? Chase Reed getting a lot of love these days. Caleb Malhotra, Jeff Merrick's pet project. Is there any chance, especially if the Canucks fall to 3, which is still odds on the likely landing spot for them. If they land at 3, anybody there got enough helium to get onto the podium?
I mean, not really, other than the guys we've said. It's Verhoff. It is Chase Reed. I think there are teams that like Carson Karls and like Albert Smits. It wouldn't shock me if any of those guys ended up there. I do look at Caleb Malhotra. I know there are teams that really, really like this guy, and everybody loves someone going on the right track developmentally, right? And so he's clicking, moving up, using his speed more, kind of adding more of a goal-scoring threat to his game too, not just a pure playmaker. He's a leader. He's got the two-way acumen. I think a team that really wants a center that ends up falling to that 3 spot or to that 4 spot, that they could certainly argue themselves into taking Malhotra over a kid like Keaton Verhoff or even Chase Reed too.
And what about the Ruck twins later in the draft? Because the Canucks have picks that kind of line up perfectly to grab them at the end of the first round and to start the second round. We got to be careful here. We have a fascination. We've done this before here in this market. It sounds like a great idea. Would it be a great idea to go get the Ruck twins?
Depends on where you're taking them. But I mean, for Vancouver, you're looking at that Minnesota pick. So, for people, I'm sure people lots of this, obviously twins playing together. They lead the WHL in scoring since mid-November for the last 25 games. They're both in top 5 in league scoring or something like that. So Liam is more of the shooter, and stop me if you've heard this before, back in 1999. And then Marcus more of the setup man. But I don't think anyone's going to sit here and be like, this guy's going to score 50 one year and this guy's going to get 100 points, like they said about Henrik and Daniel. So neither of them have great feet. I think Liam is, he's the guy that you might be a high upside swing in the 20s with that Minnesota pick, where he has skills, but it's like he has a good brain. He can create as well as finish. but he doesn't have dynamic feet. I'd say it's at best average, maybe a little bit below average. And then Marcus, more the setup man, a really impressive connector. Like he's able to connect plays really, really well at the junior level in a translatable way. But again, not great feet. He's toolsy. He's really toolsy at the WHL level, but I wonder if it'll be toolsy at the NHL level, if he's more of like a bottom six tools type of guy. So he's someone that I'm looking at more in the 50s, 60s sort of thing. So I think it would be a little early to take him with that San Jose second.
But they're getting some love though, aren't they? Like my daughters were seeing TikToks about them, for heaven's sakes. Like people are certainly fascinated by the prospect of a couple of twins again.
I mean, why not, right? I should have made that TikTok myself. I could have had your daughters watching it, but no, that's a miss. Yeah, they don't have the telekinesis that the Twins did though either, right? Like that's a once in a lifetime thing that we've seen there. So it is a cool story, and they're doing very, very well. They're propping up Medicine Hat right now. It's a good story, and I think they're going to be NHLers. It's just that I would pump the brakes a little bit on really comparing them to the Sedins.
They're both going to take part in this Western Hockey League top prospects game out at the LEC in a couple of weeks' time. What can come out of that? I mean, we've seen the CHL top prospects cross major junior, but one league in its own top prospects. Is this more just a bone to some of these guys who stuck around and decided to play in the Western Hockey League as opposed to chase college opportunities?
I don't know about that. Not many kids at that level are ready to jump for their draft eligible season. Obviously we saw Gavin and Verhoff leave, and those are kind of unique situations, I would say, generally. Next year it might be Landon Dupont might be gone if he decides to leave Everett because he had the extra year with the exceptional status. But generally, you're right, though. It's like the CHL All-Star game versus the National Team Development Program already was like not ideal. It's hard. It's hard for these kids. It's like an all-star setup. They don't have chemistry. It's just like, hey, here you go. Right. Go play with these guys you've never seen before. So at least in the West, there will be teammates, on the same team a little bit like that more often. But it's also going to be a watered-down product because there isn't enough guys in the West that you can be like, all these guys are like top prospects. I'll be over there anyways because it'll be a good time. I'm just hoping, a guy like Ryan Lynn and Mathis Preston are going to be healthy enough to be there so we can see some of the best players at that. But, get a chance to check out the Rock Twins in person too. So there's still going to be players, and it'll be worthwhile to go check out, especially if you're living in Langley or in the Lower Mainland, to go to the LEC and see some pretty good hockey. And these kids, there's going to be a lot of scouts there. The scouts will show up for it for sure.
The New York Rangers you mentioned earlier, Panarin, how close do you think that is to? That's a pre-freeze thing?
It sure sounds like they want to get it done. So, nothing's ever done until it's done. But I think that there's a lot of interest on both sides from the teams that are kicking the tires on him and for the Rangers to get this done now. I think Panarin would like that too. And, everyone's kind of been highly focused on Florida, the Panthers there. It makes a lot of sense. Obviously him and Bobrovsky and all those things, but they're a ways out of the playoff picture. They have a ton of injuries. They don't look like they're, going to have a real chance at three-peat here, but you look down the road at Tampa Bay, and I put this out there last night, just kind of pulling on some loose threads that, this is a team that, you can make a good argument. It's the front runner in the East. You move out a guy like Oliver Bjorkstrand, that money's pretty even if the Rangers are eating half the salary like it's reported. And then, first, a couple of second-round picks. I think you got Kucherov and Vasilevsky with the cap going up. They could extend them, too, if they want to go 4x10 or, something like that, 4x10.5. Like, it's all there. Can you imagine a power play with Kucherov and Panarin? Like having a good time, just swinging it around. And we know Artemi would prefer to be in Florida, right? It's nice and close for the trip back home to Russia, no state tax. Like there's a lot of boxes that the Lightning can check. And, I had somebody reach out to me last night that if it's going to get done today, like don't be surprised if it's Tampa Bay.
And Barkov was skating. There's no chance they try to do something to get everybody going there. There's no chance of that, is there?
I'm not sure about that. It's I don't even think they can afford everybody if everybody came back at the same time. Right?
You'd have to park somebody. I heard one theory that you just every few days you're resting a new guy, and that's the way you'd make it work in the playoffs. But I mean, the fact that Barkov's skating, it'd be hard to look him in the eyes and say no, you can't play if he's ready. But I mean, who knows? He might just be going for twirls.
That's right. I'm sure Captain gets first blush there. You're ready to go, Cap. You're back in the lineup. Everybody else can kind of figure it out on the side.
It's getting late early, though, for the Panthers.
Yes, you're right. They have to actually make the playoffs. there was that too.
What are they, 8 back? I think it was 8 back last time I looked there. So that's not an easy hill to climb. That's what you said. And again, like the package that they could offer the Rangers. Now Artemi has a huge say in this too, right? If he says I'm only going to Florida, well, guess what? Then they're taking whatever package they can get. But if if it's opened up, to one Florida team, now you got a little bit of infighting. But neither the Panthers or the Lightning have too many top pieces that they can move. So I think Rangers fans should probably just prepare themselves for, like I said, it's going to be a player for cap. It's going to be a later first in a couple of years, a couple seconds, maybe a mid-range prospect. It's not going to be a huge haul, I don't think.
I think we're going to try and talk to you next week. In case we can't, your Olympic excitement level right now and any worry because of these Cirelli and Point injuries.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Hey, I know I saw Coop say that it wasn't writing off Cirelli just yet, but I mean they have so many guys that waiting in the wings that if they do lose those guys, the next man up, like they are so deep in Canada. I will say that my excitement level hasn't ramped up just yet. I think
me either. Yeah,
right. It hasn't felt like it's happening. Usually, you get pretty jazzed up for these things, and I think it will kick in, but. Waking up at 5 a.m. for that gold medal game, I'll be fired up for that. That's for sure.
That will hurt an awful lot, yes. But for gold, we'll do it. Cam, thanks for this. Appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, boys. Talk soon.
Harrison Price from the Wall Center featuring Jeff Patterson, and now featuring Ben Steiner from Sports Illustrated as well, who is covering the Milan Cortina Olympics, and we are almost set to go. Ben, welcome back to the West Coast. We know you've changed locales from the Big Smoke, and welcome home, truly home for you. And I'm sure you're getting excited about the Olympics ramping up.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun Olympics. It'll be the fourth Olympics that I've covered, a different outlet this time and more of an American perspective on these games, which will certainly be interesting. But for Canadians, it's excitement for these Olympics that I don't think we've seen in a while, because the NHL players are back, because the PWHL has ramped up and has ramped up in this market as well, and because it's in a relatively friendly time zone. Yes, the skiing is going to be at around 2 a.m. for West Coast, but it is relatively friendly that, I think the gold medal hockey games at 6 a.m, that's good enough for the bars to open and people to flood the streets if Canada gets to that point. So it'll be a fun Olympics, and it'll be a nice return to a proper winter Olympics in a proper winter town in Cortina and Bormio, and it's spread across Italy and of course Milan, with just the magic of that city as well.
I can't remember the last time I had a beer at 6 a.m. It's been a while, but I guess if they make the gold medal game, I may have to partake.
The bars will open.
But at least 6 o'clock, like 6 o'clock, you set an alarm and you get up, right?
Yeah,
it's not one of those ones where you have to weigh, do I stay up?
No.
Or do I get up?
Yeah.
That one's a get up.
Toronto has an advantage, though. Like, it's far more hospitable there, that's for sure. And, for that reason, at the very least. The projections are somewhere in the 26 to 27 range, depending on who you're reading. Have you gone through that exercise yet? Where are you siding?
I think Canada has a shot at 26 medals at these Olympics. I just can't see them having immense success in curling. They haven't gone 2 for 2 on the men's and women's side since 2014. They haven't won the mixed curling since 2018 in its inaugural event as well. That starts tomorrow as the first event with Brett Gallant and Jocelyn Peterman. They're actually married and competing in mixed curling as well, which will be certainly exciting to get the Olympic ball rolling. But then, of course, you look at the hockey, and Canada missed out on a men's hockey medal at the last Olympics. As much as I love Mason Raymond, as much as I love David Desharnais, it's nice to have these NHL players back. And I think the question is more, is Canada going to win gold rather than is Canada going to get on the podium in men's hockey?
There's the old standbys too, right? We need some category of Canadian athlete to just like give us a good base, because we spend all this time covering hockey. It's for one medal, well, one for each gender. But we need one facility to produce a bunch of medals. Which facility is going to produce the most medals here for Canada?
I think it's probably going to be the Rowe Ice Arena. That's the facility for figure skating and short track. And this is not a Canadian figure skating team that is outstanding of the eras of the Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer 2010 to 2018. But there are some medal contenders in this. Madeleine Chizas is going to be an outside shot at a medal. She was feisty through the Canadian trials, trying to fend off Gabrielle Daleman's comeback, she said that Daleman was going to make the Olympics over her dead body as much as she respected her comeback. So it's a feisty Canadian team that's on the ice for figure skating, but that's the same venue as short track. And that could be the event for the Canadians, especially considering Will Dondejoux probably favored to win 2 gold medals in the 500 and the 1,000 in men's short track. And you can kind of go down the list of Evgeny Blondin, Kim Boutin, and there's several Canadian athletes that could really thrive in short track. And I think, you could see 5 or 6 medals from the Canadian short track team. And you also can't forget Mikhail Kingsbury in the moguls has a chance at 2 gold medals this time. They've brought in dual moguls. And so he can come away with 2 medals, which has never been an opportunity for him before.
How are that guy's knees still intact? Like, this is his 4th Olympic Games. When I saw that he was named one of the flag bearers, I just thought, the impact on the body to do that through 4 Olympic cycles, to me, is just absolutely mind-boggling.
This is crazy. I hope that guy can walk at 60 for sure.
And shockingly, he hasn't really had many major injuries. He missed the start of this season with a slight injury, but he really hasn't been sidelined through it all. The other flag bearer, Marielle Thompson of Whistler, has had tons of injuries, and she missed the start of this season with a 3rd knee surgery. So, the impact of these skiers is massive in terms of the knees, but somehow Mikhail Kingsbury, the guy that takes the most impact on his knees, has been relatively healthy throughout his career.
Long track, speed skating, are we good this year in that?
There's going to be questions in long track. Laurent Debreuil was good in the men's events 4 years ago. He's certainly a contender this time around. Isabella Weideman, the Canadian closing ceremony flag bearer from Beijing, will contend again. But the margins in short track or in long track are so exceptionally close, and these Canadians aren't necessarily running away with the field at this point. I think eyes definitely have to be on Weideman in this event. Ted-Jan Blumen going into his 4th Olympics as well. So it's going to be touch and go. There will be a few medals for Canadians in long track, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be a dominant sport of the era of Clara Hughes and even Isabella Weideman in Beijing.
I know not a Canadian story, but it has the potential to be one of the great stories of these Olympic Games, although we learned today that Lindsay Vonn has torn an ACL and yet at the age of 40 is still going to compete in the women's downhill.
I've been spellbounded by what Lindsay Vonn has been able to do. I've spoken to her a few times in the lead up to her comeback to the World Cup this year. She hadn't raced in 4 seasons. She comes back after getting double knee replacement, titanium knees, and she's winning World Cup races. If she didn't have this injury in Crans, Montana a few days ago, then she'd be a favorite to come away with 2 gold medals at these Olympics after being the story of Salt Lake City 2002. So it's a little bit crazy what she's been able to do. I think it's foolish to say that she couldn't contend at these Olympics, even on one ACL. She knows one speed. It's all out, and she'll get injured. She won't get injured. It's either she's injured or she wins. There's not really a middle ground for Lindsay Vonn, and she'll try her darndest to get out of that start gate. And if she does, she's going to be a contender.
We have had some results, specifically more in ski cross, obviously, where we're fairly dominant, actually. But in terms of the Alpine events, I mean, we've got guys that can rise up. Crawford can maybe steal a podium. Can we get 1 medal in all of Alpine, maybe 2?
I think 1 is definitely the target for at least the Canadian men, because they're racing in Borneo, and on both events, they're racing in traditional ski racing venues, which they haven't done in the last few Olympics, which is either an advantage or a disadvantage. But for the Canadian men, it's 2 names. It's Jack Crawford and Cam Alexander, both trained in Whistler growing up, and the Cam Alexander comes out of North Vancouver. But with Cam, he can look at 2 third-place finishes that he's had in Borneo. Again, skiing is such a fine line sport. It can be hundreds, thousands of a second that can decide it. But he's stood on a podium 2 times on the same slope that the Olympic race is on. So he has that confidence heading into these Olympics, but they haven't been skiing great this year. It's been a little bit disappointing what they've been able to do at some of the major races in Wengen, in Kitzbühel, after both Jack Crawford won Kitzbühel and Cam Alexander came 3rd last year. So it's going to be a bit of a balance, but both those guys can perform. On the women's side, Val Grenier, always a contender when it comes to women's GS, and there's a hope that she can contend in Cortina at the Tofane Alpine Center as well.
Ben, we talked earlier about the fact that the NHL guys are there. That's exciting. And the fact that Vancouver has a PWHL team this year, I think just brings people in this market a little bit closer to not just the Canadians that are going to represent this country over there in women's hockey, but there are international players as well. But this is such an interesting year where every other Olympic cycle, it's been Canada, the U.S., and it's just a question of who's going to come out on top. We saw the rivalry series this year completely one-sided for Team USA, so it feels like there is a little bit of a gap that has to be closed for Canada, but also, does a team rise up? Is there a sort of a surprise team? Have they closed the gap on Canada and the U.S.? So how do you see the women's hockey field playing out here?
This is going to be a fun women's hockey tournament to watch, especially because it's going to be at its highest level with so many of the top players playing regularly and playing professionally. But I think it has some surprises up its sleeve, and I don't think those surprises are necessarily friendly to Team Canada. We'll have our predictions of the women's hockey tournament going out on Daily Faceoff later this week, and I've predicted a podium of the U.S. coming first, Czechia coming second, and Canada winning a bronze medal in women's hockey, because I think Canada has the potential. They've gone with experience. They have the potential to trip up in a game against a young, excited Czechia team, especially one that has a player like Kaltenkova that's been exceptional with the New York Sirens in her rookie season. It just seems like it's destined that they'll trip up. But again, it's the Olympics. They weren't dominant at the rivalry series going into Beijing 2022, and that was one of their best Olympic performances ever. So who knows, with the excitement of the Olympics, with a player like Marie-Philippe Poulin, she doesn't lose easily. I think the U.S. is outstanding favorites. Taylor Hicks, which is crazy to think that she hasn't been to a games before, considering how prominent she is in the U.S. hockey space. But it's definitely the U.S. in one tier. Canada is still in that next tier. They're still the big two. I think Canada's a step behind. Then you look at Czechia and Finland as those two teams that I think Canada could trip up against, which would be a concern.
Led by my former radio broadcast partner for women's hockey, Carla McLeod, as head coach of Czechia. Is she going to disappoint her former association? It's possible. Before you go, Ben, you also, one of your 52 jobs that you own, right for MLS.com, you are well aware of what's happening with the Whitecaps in BC Place. Just your thoughts on the drama that is unfolding here and the future of the Vancouver Whitecaps. How worried are you about it?
I think you have to be concerned heading into this season for the Whitecaps. They kick it off just about 3 weeks from now, and it will be at BC Place for 3 of their first 4 games in all competitions. But you do have to question every time you walk through those doors how many are left, because it does feel like their days at BC Place are certainly numbered. And if they can't sort something out with the stadium, if there isn't a little bit of flexibility from MLS on that point of view, I think you have to be looking at the fact that this could be the last Whitecap season, which would be heartbreaking for the city. It would be heartbreaking for, people like us that have been around the Whitecaps for many years as well. There's got to be cooler heads prevailing. There's talk that maybe BC Place is trying to play a little bit of a game of chicken with MLS, and I don't think that's a game of chicken you want to play, because MLS will happily move this to a more lucrative American market, as much as I think they see the legacy in Vancouver with this team and the potential that this team has to make money as well. But it is worrying that on-field success clearly doesn't translate to off-field success. And this could be the last Whitecap season. So go to games, embrace this team, because the more support they have, the better chance they have of staying. But it's going to be difficult.
That is one form of life support, isn't it? Just have them make some money this year that they haven't expected, maybe, and maybe that's enough for them to stick around for at least another year or two before they figure things out on the stadium front. Ben, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. Enjoy watching the Olympics. We'll be enjoying your coverage, and we'll see if Canada can strive for 30. Maybe some surprises up our sleeve, and maybe we can get that high. But thanks for this. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben.
Record's 28, so we'll see what they do.
Secure some price from the Wall Center. Tickets secured for your game, for your concert. Hotel solved. Make the Wall Center your downtown headquarters for every big game, concert, and rivalry night. See what's happening at wallcenter.com. And don't forget to tell them that Secure some price sent you. The international transfer window is now closed for most of European soccer, so things are slowing down finally. But If you're a Canadian soccer fan, my word, more from our friend Ben Steiner. Look at these changes. Larin to Southampton, Eustachio to LAFC, Hoylett to Swindon, Sirois to Dallas, Russell Rowe to Toulouse, Thiago Coimbra from the CPL to Göteborg. And that was all after those other names, Schaffelberg, St. Clair, Crépeau, Ahmed, Nelson, Goodman, all moved earlier in the window. So you are probably a little confused as to who plays where. And here's the thing. That's a lot of movement, but head coach Jesse Marchand actually thought more would move from Europe to MLS in advance of the World Cup. But Eustachio will get more minutes in LA. Larin needs to find some minutes, and hopefully he gets that in Southampton. Ishmael Koney also re-signed with Sassuolo in Serie A, so they're investing in him. That should maintain his minutes. But, you know, it's all the appetizers and the hors d'oeuvres leading up to the World Cup, Jeff, and it's just important that these guys play in their new climbs.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess a guy like Stefan Eustachio has been on the radar for so long. Like, he's only 29. I know. In my mind, I thought he was
I had that with Larin.
Yeah?
Larin's 30. I thought I could have sworn he'd be 34, like more like Junior Hoylett.
I guess I just thought Eustachio would be 32-ish by now.
Yeah. No, they are still in their prime. That's why I think it's pretty exciting going into this World Cup. CONCACAF Champions Cup doesn't begin for the Whitecaps for another couple of weeks, but it's already going as of this week in Canada. Vancouver FC of the CPL hosting Mexican Giants and defending champs Cruz Azul tomorrow in Langley. It will be
flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. The sweats are starting here. Whitecaps fans can cheer them on in an upset for revenge for last year's 5-0 loss in the final down to Mexico. Good luck to Vancouver FC. But then there's this in Hamilton today. Forge gets set to host another Mexican giant in Tigres with a feels-like temperature during the game somewhere between -16 and -18, Jeff. As reference, Azteca and Edmonton, infamously, Canada versus Mexico, that big win. Sam Adekube's celebration in the snow. That was -7. The snow-covered CPL final, remember the icicle kick and the fabulous visions there? That was -8. That is balmy compared to -16 to -18.
Like, I get home pitch advantage. I understand that to a degree. But I don't think even our guys spent a lot of time running around. It's always funny, like in the golf world, anytime there's a golf tournament and the weather is crappy and there's a Canadian and they're like, oh, well, we don't. Like, I don't know that a lot of Canadian golfers are out in the pouring rain. Oh, I mean, some maybe, but anyway, I always get a kick out of that line of thinking. And it's cold for us too. Like when you see that, like extreme for visitors, sure, but it's cold for the Canadians.
The only thing I can say on that front, because you're right, is that it's been so cold for so long now out east that they've had a week worth of practice in those temperatures.
Yep.
Like Mexico got there probably a few days ago, 2 days ago to get acclimated. So that they will have got some practice in, but Canada or the Canadian side, Forge just a little bit more. But
I thought the Mexicans might look at the forecast. Some plane problems. Can't get there.
Now, Tigres does have a Canadian on that team now. Marcelo Flores just repatriating from Mexico to the Canadian side for the World Cup. So he's going to have to give guys the tricks of the trade, perhaps. BC Lions news. We were talking about the backup quarterback situation just yesterday with Farhan Lalji, and they're just going to run it back, it appears. Jeff, Chase Bryce is back with a 2-year extension now. It'll be his 4th and 5th years here, providing he finishes off the contract. Not a lot has been asked of him to this point, and that's where my one worry is here. Is that enough, Jeff? God forbid Nathan Rourke misses a month worth of action, but would this be enough? Is Chase Bryce good enough to toe the line for 3-4 starts if you get put in that kind of a situation?
And I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to that question. And you're right. Like, you don't want to go into a season preparing for plan B, but you kind of have to as well. And 2 years ago, Nathan Rourke did miss some time, and they had Vernon Adams. That worked out okay. It's one thing to, come in off the bench and do short yardage. It's another to take snaps and live bullets and all that type of stuff. So, clearly they wouldn't keep Chase Bryce around if they didn't believe in him. Hard to believe that it's been 3 years already, and the extension will be years 4 and 5. So they see something in this guy, but yeah, I mean, that's a big ask. So knock on wood. That,
All the wood you
Nathan
can find. Yeah.
stays as healthy as possible.
I mean, we've often said in the CFL, the adage is it's a 2-quarterback league that you eventually get, because the mobility thing and they become runners so often that the injuries are there. You just hope that isn't the case. A couple of other signings as well for the Lions. Marquez Callaway is a former New Orleans Saints receiver. Could be a new find in that receiving core, catching balls from Nathan Rourke. Also did get some offensive line cover as well. They signed Isaiah Cage away from the Argos, which is important after the departure of Jarrell Broxton. Also, touchdown Kelowna tickets are on sale now, too, versus the Stamps on Saturday, June 27th, versus the Elks on Saturday, July the 4th, both games at 4 p.m. At the expanded Apple Bowl. I've never been to the Apple Bowl. Have you been to the Apple Bowl?
Never seen sporting activity in it. I've driven past it a bunch of times.
Have you?
Know where I could find it.
Yeah.
I know where it is. I'm excited. It's making the best of a tough situation. Obviously, getting punted out of their home for the World Cup. We've seen them take games to the island. They are the BC Lions. I like the fact that they didn't just default and go back to the island, that they're taking it to, in the summer, Kelowna, obviously, places hopping. Hopefully that there are a bunch of football fans there that'll embrace this as well. But I'm looking forward to seeing what it ultimately looks like, and hopefully the Lions can make the most of the situation and find a way to put on a pretty good show there.
Summer arrives there earlier, too. By June 27th, July 4th could be cooking there.
Yeah.
But that could be a lot of fun. And the 4 o'clock game, it means pretty much anywhere. You can, you probably need overnight accommodations if you don't want to drive through the night on the way home. But I think everybody in Vancouver is available to drive up there and catch that with that nice 4 p.m. kickoff. And finally, pretty standard stuff at the Super Bowl media night last night. I don't know, Jimmy Kimmel sent his guy there. There's a little bit of hijinks. Moj was there, wearing Lions colors. The only thing newsy-ish, though, to really come out of that is the future of Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks OC. The Seahawks apparently are just the pipeline for Raiders coaches these days. Yes. I'd say it was the minor leagues, of course. This is the Super Bowl. They're in it. The Raiders are far away, so it really should be going the other way. Kubiak's headed to take over for Pete Carroll next season. So this is 1 game left for Kubiak, and it is odd that the NFL allows all this news stuff to happen. Like, most of the slots are filled now across the National Football League. It does sort of take some attention away. I mean, you could argue it the other way, I guess, though, Jeff, is that with the 2 weeks of darkness, this keeps your league in the news by allowing this.
Yeah, I'm just conditioned to accepting that it's the way they conduct their business. And you're right. Like, the NFL gets just about everything right from the corporate side of things. Yeah. But the fact that they do allow this coaching carousel to continue to spin ahead of Super Bowl is odd. Like, I think pretty easily you could push it to February 9th and still allow teams to get their guys in plenty of time ahead of OTAs and training camp and all that kind of stuff. But whatever, it's just sort of the way they do business. And so not a surprise, but I'm sure Clint Kubiak will be focused and head will be in the right spot for one more assignment for the Seattle Seahawks, and we'll see if he goes out as a winner.
Yeah, in terms of process for that part, like if you're going to allow this in the first place, I don't think I'm worried as a Seahawks fan about Kubiak's attention. He's in the Super Bowl. Right. It's what you dream of. I'm pretty sure he'll have everything buttoned down to the best of his abilities.
Shows up on the sideline wearing Raiders gear.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Is this too soon? If you're also worried about injuries, and I mean, Seahawks have been getting injured in practice lately. They are not required by the league to submit any injured lists until tomorrow. So we'll get a better lay of the land there as to who is tracking well. Again, cross your fingers. There shouldn't be any problems, but we'll see if there's been any tweaks in practice here so far. Poll question from yesterday. We asked you, our Yellow Dog poll question, will Jonathan Lekramaki turn into a 30-goal scorer in the National Hockey League? Did you sneak a peek at the results? You know what happened?
I didn't. I saw some of the responses.
Okay.
And no, we're not talking about 30 goals total
I
in
saw
his NHL career.
Smart asses,
Exactly.
honestly.
No, come on. Have a little faith that he can become the player that the Canucks hope. I'm going to say people did. I think listeners here,
To what degree? What was the percentage?
67?
Close, 73.
No? Okay.
Yes, others saying Abbotsford Canucks? No, I was very clear in the wording in the National Hockey League. Free Petey says only a foot gives him ice time and doesn't stunt his growth. Looking back on our Tocchet comments from the first segment, yeah, that can be a worry. Canucks 2030 says he has a better chance of getting 30 than Besser has of getting 30 again. What do you think of that comparison?
Lecker-Mackey's got a better chance of getting to 30 than Besser does of getting back there.
That's a fascinating. That could be a poll question in the summer. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Look, the way the season's gone, the lack of center depth, I think Brock is going to be a tough to 7-year contract. I want to believe that there's another 30-goal season in there.
I think your hope was that he would hover around 30 for a few years before dwindling to 22 in his last couple of years of that contract. But my goodness, you might be hoping for 22, period. It's daunting. It's daunting. Errors and omissions from yesterday, just one that we saw from Colin and planning. Easy knows, Blake, you missed a groundhog on the island. This is news to me. Vancouver Island Violet saw her shadow 6 more weeks of winter on the West Coast. I ignored a bunch of the varmints.
I mean, who can keep track of all the
There's
the
one in
groundhogs?
Quebec, too, apparently. Didn't know, but did you know when it was on the island? I did not know that.
I didn't. Violet. Okay. I still take issue with the idea that if the groundhog sees its shadow, in theory, the sun is shining. That would signal that
Nice
the
weather.
sun is out. Yeah.
Is it reverse of that? If it sees its shadow, it's winter?
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, is the argument more... No. I'm not going to weigh in.
Who can figure
I'm
out
not
these
going to weigh in.
groundhogs?
Thank you for that, Colin. Appreciate it. We're back with you tomorrow. Again, hours ticking on by. It looking like it could be quiet for the pre-deadline deadline, and that honestly, Jeff, just makes for some fun after all of this is done, because it could be a sprint towards the
exactly. I think you do your due diligence. You make your phone calls. You don't want to pay the freight for players that are sitting on a beach somewhere over the Olympic break, but coming out of that, it's kind of like the draft. Like, a lot of talk happens on the draft floor when there used to be a draft floor. And maybe those deals didn't materialize there, but then teams would go back ahead of free agency, and I think had laid some of the groundwork for trades to happen. So I think it's that kind of situation, but this isn't a pressure point. There's no real... It's a roster freeze. It's not a deadline. And then on the other side of that, see what happens, see who survives out of the Olympics, see if there's an injury or two that maybe a team, all of a sudden their needs change a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We will talk to you tomorrow, though. Again, we will be back with all the very latest from the Canucks. That's a game day versus Vegas tomorrow as well, of course, in Vegas. Thanks to you for watching, listening, and make sure you support all these fabulous sponsors to keep us going here. Keep it local, folks.